Anyway, I'm actually glad in a way that the Ard Fheis this year was cancelled really, and it gave us an opportunity to move to an alternative venue, because it's like deja vu. We're around the time of another Ard Fheis and another crisis in the so-called crisis in the peace process that's supposed to be the fault of Sinn Féin. Well, the truth of the matter is that the peace process at the moment is being held up on the crux of policing, and the insistence on the British government of bidding their own police commission report done by Patton, the former Conservative minister, in favour of what the unionists want, a retention of the discredited RUC. And I think it's very important to point this out and to thank our leadership and our negotiators for not allowing the SDLP, who would have given in at this point to policing. We did not allow them, and our negotiators didn't allow them to give in, which would have brought about the setting up of this new police force. So I think we should all be thanking our leadership and our negotiators for putting it up to the SDLP and exposing them, that they would have actually signed up to this and signed up with the Irish government and the British government to try and put the pressure on Sinn Féin. But they know they can't, because the people of the 6 counties, the people of the 26 counties, the people of the rest of the world know that the RUC is a discredited police force and has no place anywhere in the civilised world. It's also quite, you know, it's funny when you're thinking about, when you're coming up to an Ard Fheis and you're thinking about making speeches and getting up to say a few words, and you think about last year and the year before, and actually this year with the whole hunger strikes anniversary, you actually think about the last 20 years. And the fact of the matter is that the British government, although the faces have changed, it remains the same from Blair to Major right through to Thatcher. Thatcher's policies are alive and well in this British Labour Party government, and they have no place in Ireland of today, or indeed the Britain of today. And Tony Blair will be exposed for his right-wing Thatcherite policies, and especially his Thatcherite policies in connection with the 6 counties. He's allowing the Securicats rule the roost. Sinn Féin have moved political mountains over the last number of years in order to breathe life into this peace process. The IRA have given this peace process its lungs at every time it was near fatality. The Unionists remain intransigent, and the British troops remain in our country. We, as a party, are the ones who started this peace process, the ones who keep it going, and we'll see it through to fruition. I would like to just say, I know I'm going to be cut for time, but I'd like to just, you know, come back to the whole idea of the last 20 years, and 20 years since the hunger strikes. And I remember Gerry Adams being quoted in the Public one time about the first time he walked through to the White House in Washington, and he said he thought of Bobby Sands when he walked through. And I can tell you, Gerry, and the rest of our colleagues, and our colleagues hopefully tuning in from the 6 counties, that Sands and his comrades mean as much to us in Tallaght as they do in Tyrone. They mean as much in Finglas as they do in Fermanagh. And the thought of Sands and the sacrifices of his comrades, the sacrifices of the blanket men, are what drive us on here in the south and in this area of the world. Let's be very clear, comrades, and I'm going to finish now. The struggle has taken a different form at the moment. But the struggle is the same as it was at the start of political uprising back in the late 60s, early 70s, right through to the 80s with the hunger strikes and the sacrifice of the 10. And it remains the same today. As I said, the struggle has changed, but our vision remains the same. And it's up to all our delegates here to come back into our communities and reinforce the vision of the hunger strikers, to reinforce the vision and the sacrifice of the blanket men, to reinforce the vision and the sacrifice of members of this party that were murdered by loyalist death squads, to realise and put forward the vision of IRA volunteers who died at the hands of the British government. We must not forget the sacrifices that were made. We must bring them to our hearts, put them in our minds, and let them be in our legs, and we drive forward and take on the establishment of this country. That's what we need, comrades. We need their strength, and we need our strength, and we need to push forward like tigers. Thank you.
Fáilte go gach den anseo baile Clery. My name is Nicky Keogh. I'm the Sinn Féin councillor in North Inner City. I represent one of the most marginalised areas in the country. 2 years ago I was elected first time to the City Council. Okay? And it was maybe a culture shock to myself going into the higher echelons of power, as they call it. I learned a lot in the last 2 years. I've been out at the cold face of this struggle in the sense that we have 2 clinics or 2 shops, one in the inner city and one in Cabra, and every day of the week we have people coming into us with housing problems, with health problems, and it's just overwhelming what's going on. We have in this city 8,000 people on the housing list. This crisis, as I would call it, it's just unbelievable. We get snowed under with people just coming in and trying to even get a roof over their heads. Now, within the City Council, we have been on to them time and time again to set up some emergency committee, the government as well, to tackle this problem. It's the same with the health. I had one woman into me last week looking for an operation, very serious operation, and she was told she had to wait 6 months for the operation on the public health, and if she paid £500 she would be seen within 7 days. That's the society we live in here in this state. Now, for us to make any difference, we need political strength. We need political strength in Leinster House, in all the city councils around the country, and anywhere we can get it. We need to make a difference, and the difference is getting voices up to articulate what our people want. Now, we can sit around and talk about this and that, but at the end of the day, if we're not out there working, representing Sinn Féin, a radical voice, we're wasting our time. And it's up to us all to be involved, out supporting people who need that we need to give our voice to. On the peace process, it's going on a long time now, since 74 or 94. Okay? At the moment, there's deadlock. But without us being there, the SDLP would have done a deal. I represent an area which is the Taoiseach's area. And I reckon only for Sinn Féin was there, he would have done a deal. And I know that for a fact. So we need to build political strength, especially down here in Dublin. We are actually, in the last 3 or 4 years, what they're going about 10 years politically. But we need to keep that strength building. We need to keep that going to make a difference. There's no good the leadership being up there and negotiating. They can't negotiate unless they have political strength. And political strength is getting people elected in the City of Dublin. Okay, thank you.
Déireadh Stacha gá ceist a ghuileann ar public tháinig. Ceann bhí luite hana féin ag Cathal Ó ó Clás na Trínáide an ceist Cata Rialtas an deisgurt ó Rialtas na fé sé cúnda denmh madidir lena prisúnig public tánacha atá fós gafa acu, or is acu amháin atá si gafa hisa Castlereagh. While rightly the failure of the British government to honour its commitments or to live up to its commitments under the Good Friday Agreement has been exposed in the media, I think as Republicans, we need to make sure that the failure of the Dublin government also to honour its commitments has to be exposed. And it's not just the 5 men who are held in Castlereagh. They still have the special court in place. They still have emergency legislation, repressive legislation, which was used in previous years against Republicans, and which are still on the statute books to use against us in the future, if they so wish. But especially the 5 men who are held in Castlereagh, I think we need, as Republicans, to heighten awareness on that issue, and to expose the media lie that the people of Ireland want them to remain behind bars. They are political hostages. There's a commitment given in the Good Friday Agreement, which a majority of people in Ireland signed up to, and that commitment was that all political hostages would be released. I would call from this conference on the Dublin government to immediately honour that commitment and all the other commitments it gave under the Good Friday Agreement. Just our Ceist Ella, Ceist Knockwil, more on point to Gillis and Count Ella, but tá Slí Amháin, mar is éisteach leis na daoine leis an Dainre, Dain Lachas tá gceist. Tá cúna níos ag teacht chun céin, agus beag referendum ar siú. Luag níos luithe go mbeidh mid ag trid I gá tábhacháin, but beag mid ag seasamh a gcuine cúna níos comá nuair a hagan an referendum sin chun céin. A ríis eile is Garla Shear on Cunra seo. Garla Shear ar flas na tíre agus is an tain dramatá lurug on Bugga seo ná na Eurocrats. Dá siúd nach digan an Gaeilge dar mé live os Béirlé, the Nice Treaty, and any other move which lessens our sovereignty and lessens our democracy has to be exposed, has to be challenged, and has to be fought against. So when the referendum comes about on the Nice Treaty, Sinn Féin will be fully against it, and we will be fully active. We've already initiated a campaign, and hopefully everybody here will throw their weight behind Margaret.
Áine Gowan Common Governorship Mairead Carl Jackie Griffith, and also Dublin Sinn Féin Women's Officer. I'm not a candidate, by the way. And as well as that, there's many women in Sinn Féin in Dublin besides me, but it's very important that we are heard. In relation to the elections, I think it's very important that I introduce you to Mary Lou MacDonald, who was a very strong candidate in Dublin West, and we'll be obviously pushing very hard for one candidate. I do realise we have very strong candidates here, but we have to remember that working behind all the candidates in the community are the women. And we had a very successful Dublin Women's Conference 2 weeks ago, and the women that are active in the community throughout Dublin attended that and were very pleased and shared their views with the rest of us. So the women are there, they're very active, and it's a credit to them that the likes of Nicky Keogh, Dessie Ellis, Christy Burke, and people like that are getting elected in Dublin. On the political process, the peace process at the moment, one of the main issues which was discussed at our local common the other night was in relation to the policing bill and the illegalness of Ronnie Flanagan advertising for recruits at this stage. How can they expect people to have confidence in an organisation with Ronnie Flanagan, who is still would be a peer would be the chief constable or whatever they might call it. So therefore we wouldn't have any confidence in that organisation. In relation to the 20th anniversary of the hunger strike, I do realise with the 81 committee doing very good work at the moment. In line with that, there was a committee set up some time back following last year's Ardèche, and it was called the Women's History Project. And in that we are trying to get together with the women who were involved at the time, the women Armagh, the partners, the mothers, the sisters, the daughters, and whatever of the hunger strikes. And we hope to be publishing a book later on in the year before the end of the commemorative year. Sinn Féin Ard Fheis, go raibh
Fáilte raibh gach duine anseo ar an ócéid seo. I'd like to welcome everyone here. Looking at Dublin in particular, because we're concentrating on Dublin here, in Dublin here, you'd swear if you went out in the streets that we had a vibrant city. Everything was rosy in the garden. You see buildings going up everywhere. But down on the ground, and we step over people begging in the streets. We hear of racism raising its ugly head right throughout the whole city. We hear of a health service that's in tatters, a housing crisis that would be suitable to the 18th century. We have so many problems that we see. We have antisocial problems on the ground. We see people underage drinking, which is now reaching epidemic proportions in this city. We see it not being tackled in a proper fashion. We see practically no police force on the ground. I have constantly people coming to me complaining about the lack of resources in working class areas in particular. But now we have it going right across the board, right across the middle class and into the higher echelons of society. What we see is a breakdown. Where is all the money going? It's certainly not going towards curing these problems. It's certainly going in the direction of those who have it. But what do we do about it? We have to build our strength to combat this. We have to be on the ground, working hard through building this movement. And the secret to building this movement is concentrating on bringing new people in, to bring in the youth. The Ógra Sinn Féin of this movement has been absolutely tremendous, right throughout the whole city. And I'm very proud of those in the Finglas and the Ballymun area who have done a massive job in helping to build our party in the northwest area. And I say that the vibrancy that has been brought into this party has been enormous, and we haven't even realised the potential that's there. There is no doubt that our enemies, those in all the other parties, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Labour, are all running scared. Last week in the council, we had a Labour representative get up and tried to blame the Republican movement. On what? Foot and mouth disease. Are they living on another planet? Do they follow the Kevin Moyers of this world and they follow them blindly and they speak as if it's all scripted for them? These people don't seem to be able to think for themselves. They pick up a newspaper. What's the next item? It's attacking Sinn Féin. It's attacking the Republican movement. Let's get on the bandwagon. And this is their mentality. And why is it? Because they're scared. The Labour Party in this city is running.
I'd like to take this opportunity to especially welcome the new members who've joined Sinn Féin in Dublin over the past year, and this is their first conference in lieu of an Ardesh. It's been my privilege for the last few months to be running the new members classes in Dublin, and as I've been doing that, I've been meeting young people coming into the party with radical views, young people who care about the issues that face us north and south, young people who reject the status quo. They reject the pop culture and the consumerism that we're all supposed to buy into. They have a vision of a socialist society that embraces everybody, that ends oppression and ends colonisation as well. Larry talked about the need to build new members and build strength through new members. I'd like to reiterate that people go back and talk to their wives and their mothers and their sisters and their girlfriends, because we won't win this struggle by leaving it to the men, but we will win it together.
Cheers, Mona Yee, Michael Gael, Nostalgia, Jeremy Ard Corlia, August, Trinity College, Sinn Féin. I'm told due to time constrictions that I have 1 minute to convince you of the following. The Treaty of Nice, Michael Gael, is an absolute disaster for the Irish nation. We in Sinn Féin unambiguously oppose the Treaty of Nice, and we stand for a no vote in the forthcoming referendum. Nice offers absolutely nothing to Ireland. It will see a further draining away of what remaining power the Irish people have over their own affairs. It will see a further dilution of Irish neutrality and sovereignty. It will see a veto over 30 policy areas that Ireland previously had control over, and above all, it will see the formation of a two-tier Europe in which Ireland will be in the latter tier, the second tier. This is not what our people signed up to in 1973. We are the only ones in Europe, in this state, we are the only ones who are in a position to say no. We are the only ones who actually have a referendum. There are people throughout Europe, a large number of people in each of the member country states who are looking to Ireland to do the right thing because they, like us, are extremely wary of the Treaty of Nice. The Treaty of Nice is one further incremental step along the way to a European superstate, which is not good for the Irish nation or any other member nation of the European Union. We are in a position, by securing a no vote, to see to it that there will be a renegotiation, to see to it that there will be a Europe, not of the Eurocrats, but a democratic Europe of the democratic peoples of this European continent. Good evening, Malcolm, because you give it all. I was work for a no vote.
Hello, Gerard Flaherty, over Sinn Féin Ard Fheis. I'd just like to take this chance to call on the leadership to reaffirm the establishment of a 32-county socialist republic. This objective is very important and it shouldn't be left to the sideline. We also call on the leadership not to lose sight of this objective with the implementation of the institutions of the Good Friday Agreement. While the Patten report was welcomed, we would not encourage any young nationalists or Republicans to join the Reform Police Service, and the policy of the disbandment of the RUC should be implemented in full. Thank you.
Mary Lou MacDonald, Dublin West. I won't be looking for any leniency on the time, having guillotined other people. I think I could run a risk there. My colleagues from across the city have identified the big range of problems that we face across the areas of health, housing. You don't need me to reiterate them. But I have a question for us, colleagues. And the question, it seems to me, is this: in electoral terms, just how ambitious are we going to be? It seems, certainly from west of the city, viewing matters, there are enormous opportunities. As somebody once put it, we now face insurmountable opportunities. The question is, can we capitalise on them? The question is, do we have the confidence to capitalise on them? The question is, do we have the belief in our political analysis and the belief in our ability to deliver? I believe that we do, and I know West Side we're working hard to build the political strength and make that real. On the matter of the Good Friday Agreement, we have once again British intransigence. This is as predictable as the seasons at this stage. And I feel, as Desi has identified, that there's a view out there that somehow, if the establishment hangs tough, Sinn Féin will blow itself out. If the media creates enough controversy, spreads enough malicious lies, that somehow we'll pack up our tent and go home. And I think the message should come from Dublin Sinn Féin at this conference that we have no intention of doing that. The message should come from this conference that the more stalling that happens, that the more you obstruct, the more the need for change becomes evident. That as the Securocrats and the British government and the Dublin government procrastinate and behave like hypocrites and spread falsehoods, the more that is done, the more it becomes evident that radical root and branch change is required. On the national question, we are, in my mind, there is no question on the path to national reunification. But the project is in our hands. And the question is, and I ask it again, at a national level, at a local level, how courageous will we be now with this political project? Come on, comrades, bear bua.
How's it going? Gerald Grace, my name, Colin Fulton, come on, North Dublin. Just briefly to speak about the IUC. The media campaign, or rather the propaganda campaign that's being run at the moment, you know, gives the impression to people who are not politically minded that the IUC is, in fact, you know, the community police force, the friendly Bobby on the beat type of thing. People must actually remember that the IUC are the same people as threatened solicitors, you know, colluded with terror gangs to murder solicitors. Also watched idly while a young man was kicked to death. It's worth remembering, and you know, also passing documents on for terror gangs, etc. These are no different to, you know, type that you'd see in South America, that type of police force, you know. And it's interesting that the British government are actually pushing the agenda for the IUC to be accepted at this time. Dublin North Sinn Féin stands 100% behind the leadership and behind the strategy being adopted. And you know, basically, just like to take the opportunity to thank the board for letting me speak on behalf of Dublin North Sinn Féin. Thanks very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Rob McCann. I'm also from Dublin North Sinn Féin, so I think we have a monopoly on the end of this talk anyway. I'd like to thank you for affording me the opportunity to speak to you here today and to represent Coleman and Fullerton. As a newcomer in the Dublin area, we've only been in existence for the last few months, and we face a lot of challenges of effectively promoting our party issues through the distribution of written material. In addition, North Dublin Sinn Féin faces its own problems, and we've recognised certain problems of being of vital importance. These issues affect all of our community, regardless of age, race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation, or indeed income. We're in desperate need of medical facilities in North Dublin. It's a crisis. At the moment, we have one children's hospital covering the whole North Dublin area, Temple Street. And I don't know if any of you have visited recently. I have myself, to see it for myself. It's a deplorable state. There's vomit on the floor. They have an archaic filing system. People are being treated where they sit. They're not being afforded the proper privacy and confidentiality that all people are entitled to, no matter how much money they make. It's 30 miles from my hometown in Skerries to the nearest good children's hospital in North Dublin. And there isn't one. It's Tala, the opposite side of the city. We've heard other horror stories from people in the residents of North Dublin. And I could stand here all day and tell you, but I won't due to the time constraints. In addition to the medical crisis, North Dublin is also facing a drug problem, as many areas in the country. Standing on an anti-drug campaign, Coleman Fullerton Common is currently researching the benefits of drug awareness and education at the primary school level for the area. We're currently viewing information on a programme that will not only educate children to the dangers and effects of drugs, but will also involve parents so that they are aware of the possible signs of drug abuse in their children. Another area of concern for the North Dublin area is the inadequate transport situation. It's been further hampered by a rapidly growing community in North Dublin. The various campaigns that we're undertaking to do at the moment, including petitions for the accident emergency facilities in Beaumont Hospital, they turn children away in Beaumont Hospital if they're under the age of 12, unless it's a life-threatening situation. And people are going to die before something is done. And I think Sinn Féin will undertake, and always have done, to make sure that people
regardless of their income, the fact that they can't pay for private medical treatment will be seen as quickly and expeditiously as those who earn high wages. Aside from the local issues, there are national issues as well that we are not forgetting about, and certainly we're promoting them as vehemently as the local issues. I'll be very brief. The national question, I think everyone in the country knows where Sinn Féin stands on that. And we're enforcing that view as vehemently as we are for the local issues. Also, the human rights abuses in the 6 counties. I'm not forgetting the human rights abuses in the 26 counties. I don't need to mention the problem with the Gardaí in Donegal at the moment. Corruption in Irish politics is rife in the 26 county government in particular. And I think Sinn Féin are the only party, the only all-Ireland party that are standing up to these people. I think, just by saying, in conclusion, that Fingal County Council is our next target for Sinn Féin. It's in our constituency, and we intend to fill that place up with Sinn Féin councillors in the years to come. And we have a definite strategy to do it.
Sinn Féin in Dublin North East would like to take this opportunity to show our support for the leadership of the party in recent negotiations at Stormont. We also realise the enormous workload involved in such positions of leadership. A few weeks ago, an opinion poll in the Sunday papers showed Gerry Adams to be the most popular party leader in the 26 counties. We are of the opinion that this popularity is not being built upon here in Dublin. Bearing in mind our huge workload, we believe that if people like Gerry Adams and Martin McGuinness were seen more frequently campaigning and canvassing in places like Darndale or Cabrin, that this could be of enormous benefit to us in the next election. There will be huge media focus on the performance of all the parties, in Dublin in particular, at the next election. It is vital that our high-profile leadership are seen down here to agitate on the many issues that affect Dublin. If this happens, we are quite confident that a major breakthrough could happen for Sinn Féin in Dublin at the next election.
As we know, this year marks the 20th anniversary of the 1981 hunger strikes. And it's sometimes very difficult for people to understand the enormity of what happened 20 years ago. I think it's even very difficult for those of us who lived through that period and knew some of the hunger strikers. The great feeling of sadness mixed with enormous feelings of anger. But the culmination of all of that has renewed a determination that is so deep that I just don't think the establishment understand how deep our determination is to achieve the liberation and the freedom of our country. George Bernard Shaw wrote about it one time, about a nation that is denied liberty. I won't quote him, but I'll urge you to go and read him. There is no way that you can undermine the determination of this generation of Republicans to achieve what we set out to achieve. I'd now like to introduce a long time comrade of mine, a long time friend of mine, Rita O'Hare, who runs our bureau in Washington, to come up here and to introduce to you this next section of the conference.
You can see the imagery all around you. The hunger strikers. Faces that are now known, not just throughout Ireland, but around the world. Now, there have been very many dramatic and traumatic things that have happened over the last 30 years. Things that, as Pat said, aroused huge emotions, feelings of anger, of sometimes frustration, but always, in the end, determination that we would build and move on. And like nothing else, that is the effect and the impact that the hunger strike had.
because it has had a resonance right down through these 20 years like no other thing that has happened, and indeed it has changed the whole direction of Irish history and Irish politics. British government policy at the time had decided that they were going to break the struggle through breaking the prisoners. Decided they were going to criminalise the struggle by criminalising the prisoners in the H-blocks. I'll wear no prison uniform, nor meekly serve my time, that England might deem Ireland's fight 800 years of crime. And that is what those prisoners did. Through the prison struggle, they broke the British government's policy. The British government and Margaret Thatcher failed to criminalise the prisoners and failed to criminalise our struggle. And of course, it went beyond Ireland. The hunger strike internationalised this struggle. From Ireland to America, Russia, China, European countries, to Cuba, around the world, the names of Bobby Sands and his comrades are still bywords for the triumph of the human spirit over repression and injustice. And our struggle again was internationalised by the peace process. And that international spotlight that shone on Ireland through the peace process and through our efforts to bring it out from under the cloud that Britain had tried, the blanket of censorship and misinformation that Britain tried to spread over it, is again lifted. And the real role of Britain towards our country has been exposed. What the hunger strikes did was raise a determination like I've never seen before. There are young people in this hall, people who've spoken from here, from this podium, who were babies, toddlers, when that hunger strike happened. And yet they know about it, and they know what it meant. And we have to carry on that struggle. We have to carry on the struggle so that the real celebration of the hunger strikers' lives and commemoration of their deaths is an honour to them. And we can do that by building our political strength and achieving the goal that is still so firmly in our sights, a united, independent Ireland. We can take back Bobby Sands' seat, and we can give real representation to that nationalist constituencies and others that have suffered for far too long by the misrepresentation of unionism and the denial of a nationalist and republican voice. And that is a commemoration and a celebration of the hunger strikers and their contribution to this struggle that we have to ensure happens. I want to introduce now to you two people who could not be more appropriate to introduce this next section. Two former prisoners who are going to read extracts from Bobby Sands' writing. I want to introduce to you Ella O'Dwyer and Jerry Hanratty. Thank you very much.
I am standing on the threshold of another trembling world. May God have mercy on my soul. My heart is very sore because I know that I have broken my poor mother's heart, and my home is struck with unbearable anxiety. But I have considered all the arguments and tried every means to avoid what has become the unavoidable. It has been forced upon me and my comrades by 4.5 years of stark inhumanity. I am a political prisoner. I am a political prisoner because I am a casualty of a perennial war that is being fought between the oppressed Irish people and an alien, oppressive, unwanted regime that refuses to withdraw from our land. I believe and stand by the God-given right of the Irish nation to sovereign independence, and the right of any Irishman or woman to assert this right in armed revolution. That is why I am incarcerated, naked and tortured. Foremost in my tortured mind is a thought that there can never be peace in Ireland until the foreign, oppressive British presence is removed, leaving all the Irish people as a unit to control their own affairs and determine their own destinies as a sovereign people, free in mind and body, separate and distinct physically, culturally and economically. I believe I am but one another of those wretched Irishmen, born of a risen generation, with a deeply rooted and unquenchable desire for freedom. I am dying, not just to attempt to end the barbarity of Hezbollah, or to gain the rightful recognition as a political prisoner, but primarily because what is lost in here is lost for the Republic and those wretched oppressed who I am deeply proud to know as the risen people.
Friday 6th. They will not criminalise us, rob us of our true identity, steal our individualism, depoliticise us, turn us out as systemised, institutionalised, decent, law-abiding robots. Never will they label our liberation struggle as criminal. I am, even after all the torture, amazed at British logic. Never in 8 centuries have they succeeded in breaking the spirit of one man who refused to be broken. They have not dispirited, conquered, nor demoralised my people, nor will they ever. I may be a sinner, but I stand, and if it so be, will die happy, knowing that I do not have to answer for what these people have done to our ancient nation.
Thursday the 12th. I heard today's announcement that Frank Hughes will be joining me on hunger strike on Sunday. I have the greatest respect, admiration and confidence in Frank, and I know that I am not alone. How could I ever be alone with comrades like those around me, in Armagh and outside? I have come to understand, and with each passing day, I understand increasingly more, and in the most sad way, that awful fate and torture endured to the very bitter end by Frank Stagg and Michael Gohan. Perhaps, indeed yes, I am more fortunate because those poor comrades were without comrades or even a friendly face. They had not even the final consolation of dying in their own land. Irishmen alone and at the unmerciful, ugly hands of a vindictive, heartless enemy. Dear God, but I am so lucky in comparison. I have poems in my mind, mediocre no doubt, poems of hunger strike and McSweeney, and everything that this hunger strike has stirred up in my heart and in my mind. But the weariness is slowly creeping in, and my heart is willing, but my body wants to be so lazy. So I have decided to mass all my energy and thoughts into consolidating my resistance. That is most important. Nothing else seems to matter except that lingering, constant, remaining thought. Never ever give up. No matter how bad, how black, how painful, how heartbreaking, never give up. Never despair. Never lose hope. Let them bastards laugh at you at all they want. Let them grin and let them jibe. Allow them to persist in their humiliation, their brutality, deprivations, vindictiveness, petty harassments. Let them laugh now, because all of that is no longer important or worth a response. I am making my last response to the whole vicious, inhumane atrocity they call Hezbollah. But unlike their laughs and jibes, our laughter will be the joy of victory and the joy of our people. Our revenge will be the liberation of all and the final defeat of the oppressors of our age nation.
Saturday 14th. I smoked some cigarettes today. We still defeat them in this fear, if the screws only knew the half of it. The ingenuity of the POW is something amazing. The worse the situation, the greater the ingenuity. Someday it may all be revealed. On a personal note, Lee Moog, I just thought I'd take this opportunity tonight of saying to your good hard-working self that I admire you all out there and the unselfish work that you all do and have done in the past, not just for the H-Blocks and Armagh, but for the struggle in general. I have always taken a lesson from something that was told to me by a sound man, that is, that everyone, Republican or otherwise, has his own particular part to play. No part is too great or too small. No one is too old or too young to do something. There is that much to be done that no select or small portion of the people can do. Only the greater mass of the Irish nation will ensure the achievement of the Socialist Republic, and that can only be done by hard work and sacrifice. So, Macara, for what it's worth, I would like to thank you all for what you have done, and I hope many others follow your example. And I am deeply proud to have known you all, and prouder still to call you comrades and friends.
Tuesday, 17th. An official was in with me today and gave me some lip. He said, I see you're reading a short book. It's a good thing it isn't a long one, for you won't finish it. That's the sort of people they are. Curse them. I don't care. It's been a long day. I was thinking today about the hunger strike. People say a lot about the body, but don't trust it. I consider that there is a kind of fate, indeed. Firstly, the body doesn't accept the lack of food, and it suffers from the temptation of food, and from other aspects which gnaw at it perpetually. The body fights back, sure enough, but at the end of the day, everything returns to the primary consideration, that is the mind. The mind is the most important. But then, where does this proper mentality stem from? Perhaps from one's desire for freedom. It isn't certain that that's where it comes from. If they aren't able to destroy the desire for freedom, they won't break you. They won't break me, because the desire for freedom and the freedom of the Irish people is in my heart. The day will dawn when all the people of Ireland will have the desire for freedom to show. It is then we will see the rising of the moon.
In 1981, 10 men, Irish Republicans, died on hunger strike protest in the H-Blocks of Longkesh prison in the north of Ireland. This hunger strike was the culmination of 5 years of prison protest and 12 years of civil unrest and guerrilla warfare. Unrest which began with the Campaign for Civil Rights in 1968. The inhuman treatment endured by the prisoners in the H-Blocks and Armagh jail during this period was not without precedent. On May the 11th, 1946, Belfast Republican Sean McCaughey died in Portlaoise prison after 17 days on hunger and thirst strike, after more than 4.5 years in solitary confinement, with only a blanket. In 1920, Terence McSweeney, the Lord Mayor of Cork, died in Brixton prison after 74 days on hunger strike. 2 other men, Joseph Murphy and Michael Fitzgerald, died on this hunger strike. Thomas Ashe, a commander in the 1916 Rising, died in 1917 after being force-fed on hunger strike. Throughout the early period of the Free State, Republicans died on hunger strike. In the 1970s, Republican prisoners held in English jails began to go on hunger strike, seeking transfer back to prison in Ireland. In 1974, Michael Gaughan died after being force-fed. By 1979, despite the recent death of Frank Stagg on hunger strike, it was again discussed by prisoners as an option in the battle against criminalisation.
not so long ago.
We said that we could toilet facilities open, you know, and we'll just go out on our way to the yard. But they wouldn't even allow that. So we had no other option. When we opened the doors to leave the freezer, we just locked out on the way. And that's how we managed it.
Around you, tried to break you in a living hell, but they couldn't find a way. We're political prisoners! We want political status! Up the road! Look at that, look at that! Hope that all would turn away. Thought your spirit couldn't rise again. We, my 6 comrades, are prepared to go through this, and we are prepared to die to prove that we are special prisoners, and our 5 basic demands are just. Let the world hear freedom song, yet the heartache and pain linger.
Sans Bobby, anti-H block, Armagh, political prisoner, 30,000. Yeah! 192.
You showed us how freedom's fight can be won. I wish there was an easy road to choose, to bring the heartache to an end. But easy roads are always sure to lose. I've seen it time and time again. You could stand by me like yesterday, I'd find the strength to carry on. So let your spirit shine along the way, and our day will surely come. Yet the heartache and pain linger on. They're still here, though it's so long since you've gone. But we're stronger now. You showed us how freedom's fight can be won. I wish there was an easy road to choose, to bring the heartache to an end. But easy roads are always sure